to do a video very briefly, if I can keep it brief, about fairy tales, atheism, creation, the Bible, and all these such subjects. You know, I have a lot of atheists comment on my videos that the Bible is a fairy tale, and how could I believe something, you know, that's so mythical and everything else? Well, first of all, the Bible is distinct and unlike any other so-called myth that's out there. Anybody that's done a modicum of research on it knows that. The God of the Bible is in no way, shape, or form even similarly related to many of the ancient myths, as people have tried to say. For instance, one popular myth is that Mithras was born from a virgin, and he had 12 disciples, and he was born on December 25th. None of that is true. Now, the 12 disciples thing, I don't know where to even begin with that. Mithras came out of a rock, and I don't care if he was born on December 25th, because Jesus wasn't. So what am I saying? A lot of people have tried to say that the Bible is the same as any other myth out there, and it's plainly, just do your homework, it's not. So we can scratch that as a legitimate argument. But what I specifically want to deal with here is the idea that atheists seem to have this so-called objective view on reality, where they can sit back and make judgments about everyone else's beliefs from a higher throne, and that anything else is a fairy tale. Let's just deal with this very briefly and succinctly. Now, let's just take, many people tell me they listen to my videos, the most important question the atheist can answer. They say, well, you don't understand evolution. Well, I would say you didn't understand my video, because that wasn't the point. The point is not understanding evolution. The point is, where and how did life come from non-life? Well, go see Abiogenesis. Well, that's still a theory, and even if science was able to simulate a way that it could happen in the lab, it still doesn't mean it happened in that way. So if I'm to use the atheist's own standard of knowledge and apply it to his own views, I would have to conclude that he believes in fairy tales just like he claims that I do. Well, how can I say that? Well, let's just use your own standard. I see no evidence of a God out there, so because I don't see any evidence that's right in front of my face, therefore I conclude there's no God. And I realize some of the arguments might be more detailed than that, but ultimately at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. And so, and because I can't know for sure that there's a God, 100% sure, then therefore you have the more softer and the harder atheism. You have people that say, well, they don't know for sure, so they're not going to believe. And then you have people that say, absolutely there is no God. We have proof that there is no God. Well, either way, atheism is atheism. And my point is, if we don't know, if that's your standard of knowledge, and you say that because I don't know the Bible is true, therefore it's a fairy tale, and it's so much like other creation myths and blah blah blah, then okay, let's apply that same standard to what you believe. Abiogenesis, there's no way we could possibly know how it occurred. We don't know how it occurred. We don't have a clue that it occurred, and we've seen nothing in science so far to suggest that could even occur. So if we have no evidence that it's occurred, we have no evidence that we could know for sure that it occurred, isn't that just as much of a fairy tale? As some of my friends say, it takes more faith to be an atheist, and I believe it does. Of course, that's a joke, because a lot of people think the Bible's definition of faith is blind. It's not. It's a trust in what you know to be true. That's the biblical definition of faith. But anyway, my point is, if I'm to use the atheist standard of knowledge, and I apply that to what the atheist currently believes scientifically, then he believes in a scientific fairy tale. Now, it may be a scientific fairy tale, but it's a fairy tale nonetheless. And that's my point. And anybody that cannot come to admit that, you want to talk about dishonesty. That's one of the biggest things I see on these atheist videos. They're always saying that people are dishonest. I think this is dishonest. Even though atheists cannot possibly have an objective moral standard to lean against, which is ironic, and I'll probably do a video on that. But you have an extreme amount of dishonesty in the fact that they're claiming that things that are not proven to be proven, and they're putting their trust in those things and then pretending as if those things themselves are not fairy tales when they are indeed fairy tales. If I am to use your, again, definition of fairy tale, it's a fairy tale. Deal with it.